Urgent! Vikings fan, look at what just happened. Nobody saw this coming, huh? But first, make sure to subscribe to the channel because we bring you daily videos with the latest your team news, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. NFL Insider reveals when Minnesota Vikings may sign QB, why they are waiting. The Minnesota Vikings are currently poised to roll with J.J. McCarthy as their starting quarterback in 2025, giving the former first-round pick an opportunity to shine. However, the team has been linked to multiple veteran quarterbacks this offseason, and new insight has come out on their likely approach. Minnesota first attempted to resign quarterback Sam Darnold before he bolted for the Seattle Seahawks, where he'll be the unquestioned starter in 2025. After striking out on a Darnold reunion, the team got into a bidding war for Daniel Jones that it ultimately lost to the Indianapolis Colts. Days after Jones and Darnold went elsewhere, NFL rumors surfaced that the Vikings would entertain the idea of signing Aaron Rodgers. However, with the organization split on bringing in the future Hall of Famer and making McCarthy compete against him, Minnesota backed off the four-time NFL MVP. There are still plenty of viable backup quarterbacks available in NFL free agency who could provide some veteran experience behind McCarthy. However, there seems to be a legitimate reason why Minnesota is taking its time before adding one. During the latest episode of the Inside Coverage podcast, Yahoo Sports senior NFL insider Charles Robinson touched on the Vikings situation regarding when they'll add a veteran quarterback and why they are taking their time to add one. They're not gonna, I believe, deed a veteran back up into that room until after the draft. Why? It'll affect their comp pick situation. They have a third and a fifth round compensatory pick based on what's happened this offseason, waiting for them next year. But if they sign another quarterback, it's going to affect the comp pick equation. Signing Rodgers would jeopardize the compensatory pick Minnesota is slated to receive at the end of round 3 in the 2026 NFL Draft. Even if Rodgers is taken off the board by signing a deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers, signing someone like Joe Flacco or Carson Wentz might jeopardize the fifth-round compensatory pick. As a result, Minnesota is expected to wait until at least the Monday after the 2025 NFL Draft before it signs a veteran quarterback. As for who that might be, Robinson mentioned Wentz as a potential fit, given he served as the backup quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams in 2023, so he would have some familiarity with Kevin O'Connell's system. Unlike Flacco, Wentz would also be more willing to accept a backup role. Pausing this news just to say that if you want YouTube to keep recommending the latest Vikes news to you, it's very important that you leave a like on this video. Thanks. Now let's get back to the news. Aaron Rodgers gets reality check after high. Interest in Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings have left the door open to reignite talks with Aaron Rodgers later this offseason. However, General Manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah said their primary plan is J.J. McCarthy starting at QB in 2025. Rodgers has a positive relationship with Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell, and Adofo-Mensah noted the two will remain in contact. However, NFL Network's Tom Pelissero offered a more direct summary of the situation. At this point, right now, sitting here in late March, the Pittsburgh Steelers are the only opportunity that Aaron has. The Giants were certainly interested in it. I never got the sense that Aaron was as interested in the Giants, NFL Network's Tom Pelissero reported on the Jim Rome Show on March 27th. Aaron had a high degree of interest in going to Minnesota. In my opinion, or based upon what I know, I think that the way that this was reported in some corners and the rumors were somewhat overblown. This was not like they were Allen and didn't sign Aaron Rodgers and then something went sideways. They changed their mind. It was always a long shot in Minnesota because they have a high degree of belief that J.J. McCarthy is going to be the guy. Rodgers, 41, has a standing offer from the Steelers. However, that deal remains unsigned, perhaps as Rodgers awaits the Vikings' official final decision on McCarthy, or they add another veteran option to push him. The Vikings traded up in the 2024 draft to select McCarthy number 10 overall and will give him every opportunity to prove he is their best option to start. We are in a very small percentage chance here that this thing changes and he has Minnesota open up. So Aaron's own choices right now are go to the Steelers or you don't, Pelissero said. Just answer the question, show you're all in, or you sit back and you say, I'm not ready to make a decision right now. And maybe you see, whether it's Minnesota or something else, what might shake out of the trees. Vikings could run risk by delaying J.J. McCarthy's. The Vikings' decision on Rodgers has brought up various potential red flags from the QB's time with the Green Bay Packers and New York Jets. However, McCarthy's development is front and center for the Vikings. After he didn't get any reps all last season because of the meniscus surgery, if you now say, hey, you're not getting any reps in 2025 either, what is that doing to you in 2026 and 27, where you would have no guarantees that Aaron Rodgers is going to be your quarterback? Pelissero said. They decided at this point that they're moving forward. I'm not anticipating that changing. The only other quarterback on the Vikings roster as of March 27 was journeyman Brett Rypien, who Adolfo Mensa touted but who also has a 22 record in 6 NFL seasons. Adolfo Mensa did say the Vikings will continue exploring veteran options. As for Rodgers, Pelissero reported that the 4-time MVP and 10-time Pro Bowler will also maintain contact with members of the Steelers organization. Vikings backup QB options dwindling amid. Aaron Rodgers' stance. Adolfo Mensa's mention of Rypien highlights the dearth of fitting options available to the Vikings in free agency beyond Rodgers. Joe Flacco is 40 and less mobile than Rodgers. Ryan Tannehill shares representation with McCarthy, but did not play in 2024 after seeking a starting opportunity. Would he accept a backup role or even the threat of one in 2025? Carson Wentz is available but could have clearer paths to a starting opportunity. Rypien joined the Vikings in August 2024, has already been in the system. He also showed well during his preseason reps with the Chicago Bears. He could be the Vikings' QB2 in 2025. Why the Vikings' backup QB vacancy may not be filled for a while? The Vikings still need to add a veteran quarterback, but there's a reason why they seem to be content in waiting to do so. The Vikings have been very patient about adding a veteran quarterback to complement J.J. McCarthy. After 3 weeks of free agency and all kinds of Aaron Rodgers speculation, they still have just McCarthy and former practice squad player Brett Rypien on their roster at the sport's most important position. At this point, it seems like they're not going to sign a quarterback for a while, and there's a reason for that. One thing the Vikings have been very mindful of throughout this offseason is the NFL's compensatory pick formula, which gives teams extra draft picks if they lose more qualifying free agents than they sign. Right now, the Vikings are in line for 2 comp picks in the 2026 draft. If they were to sign a free agent for more than roughly $4 million per year prior to next month's draft, they'd be risking canceling out one of those picks. But if they wait until the Monday after the draft, April 28th, they can add players without them factoring into the comp pick formula. We're looking at all our options, GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah said this week when asked if Minnesota plans to add a quarterback. There's a lot of good players out there still. We've had the dynamic where we're trying to improve the team but be mindful of our compensatory pick situation and different things like that. In the meantime, the Vikings could potentially trade for a quarterback on another team's roster. But if they're going to sign someone like Joe Flacco, Carson Wentz, or Drew Lock to a standard backup-type contract, perhaps $45 million for 1 year, that probably isn't happening for at least another month. That's also true of positions other than QB, like, for example, cornerback. Any significant free agent additions to come the rest of this offseason will likely wait until after the draft. Eventually, the Vikings will add a quarterback to their roster, and yes, there's still a theoretical possibility that the Vikings and Rodgers could revisit their conversations down the line if the 4-time MVP doesn't sign with the Steelers. Adofo-Mensah wasn't willing to completely shut the door on that front. Still, it seems highly unlikely. It's also our job to set up a quarterback room that's going to be able to meet, have great ideas, and prepare whoever it is to play, but also provide insurance in case someone needs to come in for a couple games, Adofo-Mensah said. That's our job as a personnel department, to look at all of the options out there and make sure we're setting ourselves up for the best case we can. And now, Vikings fan, I want to hear from you. What's your opinion on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I don't know if you know this, but your opinion matters a lot for Vikes. I'll be back any moment with more Vikings news. Skol Vikings!